Congratulations if you've made it to the fantasy football playoffs. Some might be in the semi-finals this week, while others might already be playing their championship games. Either way, with the proper trades and waiver wire pickups, you've given yourself a shot at the title. The time is here to make your final roster adjustments. Let's take our weekly dive into which players you should consider picking up and/or starting and which players you should consider dropping or sitting as we head into what we've all been waiting for and worked so hard to accomplish. For more late-season trade pickup start-sit ideas, check out recent editions of this article: Week 14, Week 13, Week 12, Week 11, Week 10, Week 9, Week 8. More dominate your league with Fantasy Alarms season-long tools. Fantasy football start-em, sit-em candidates. Stock up Russell Wilson, QB. Wilson has been matchup-proof this season with his ability to run and pass so effectively, and if there was ever a week to prove that, it was in Week 14 against Jacksonville's top-ranked defense. While he did throw 3 interceptions, there are some other things to consider when evaluating his performance. 1. It was a road matchup against by far the best defense in the NFL. 2. He still managed to throw for 271 yards and 3 touchdowns while also running for 50 yards on 5 carries. 3. Those 3 interceptions leading to a Seattle loss hurts the team way more than it does your fantasy squad, as he still put up his league-high 9th 20-plus point performance in ESPN standard leagues. Just a friendly reminder that Wilson is the No. 1 quarterback in all of fantasy football. Nick Foles, QB. What a devastating loss for the Eagles, with Carson Wentz suffering a torn ACL this week against the Rams. From a fantasy perspective, it's fairly safe to say that there is a playoff team in your league that has Wentz on his or her roster and likely no backup. If that team is you, then you should seriously consider Nick Foles. Here is a veteran quarterback that has had success in the NFL and is now in the driver's seat of the best team he's ever been on. There aren't any numbers to justify why Foles should be on your radar. However, this Eagles team is loaded and not looking to make excuses. Foles has shown his ability with a lot less talent around him, and matchups against the Giants and Raiders over the next 2 weeks will make this transition even easier, as both of those teams are atrocious against the pass. Mike Davis, RB. Finally, a healthy Seattle running back that can handle a full workload and do everything Coach Pete Carroll asks of him. Davis has given this team some stability in the running game and balanced the offense, relieving some of the pressure from Wilson. In Week 13 and Week 14 combined, Davis carried the ball 31 times for 130 yards and also recorded 5 receptions for 36 yards. This upcoming week, Seattle heads home to face a Rams team that has given up the 3rd most ESPN Standard League fantasy points to running backs this season, and follows that up with a road matchup with the Cowboys, a middle-of-the-pack defense in points allowed to fantasy running backs in 2017. Week 15 rankings: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, DST, kicker. Fantasy football start-em, sit-em candidates. Stock down Robbie Anderson, WR, NYJ. Win Jets quarterback Josh McCown broke his non-throwing hand against the Broncos. Nobody's stock dropped more than that of Anderson. Now, Anderson is still a very good receiver and could produce decent numbers. However, with the idea that quarterback Bryce Petty will now be under center for the Jets, it's likely that we can all kiss that hope goodbye. Going 2 of 9 for 14 yards in relief of the McCown and having a career 37 touchdown-to-interception ratio and 57.9 career QB rating isn't something that is going to inspire hope if you're an Anderson owner. Matchups against 2 very solid defenses in the Saints and Chargers over the next 2 weeks lessen the optimism here even more. Andy Dalton, QB. The Bengals are an absolute wreck. Where do we even start here? Let's start with the fact that the Bengals' potential star running back Joe Mixon is injured with a concussion, and we all know the wide range of recovery time for that specific injury. We could also talk about how it's that time of year again, usually toward the final month of the season, where everyone starts the Marvin Lewis hot seat conversation. However, we need to look no further than the fact that Dalton looked completely lost at home against a Bears team that has allowed fewer than 20 points only 3 times this season. His horrendous play in Week 14 also led to his benching for backup quarterback A.J. McCarron, providing an outside chance for a quarterback controversy in Cincinnati. Mike Evans, WR/TB. A disastrous 2017 campaign continued in Week 14 for the big wide receiver out of Texas A&M. Evans had 2 receptions for 25 yards on 5 targets and was blanketed all day by a Lions team that in Week 13 allowed 189 yards to Ravens wide receivers. Evans is struggling to gain separation in the secondary and has hardly any yards after the catch. To make matters worse for Evans, quarterback Jameis Winston is spreading the ball around to all of his receivers, shown by the 11 different players catching a pass in Week 14. There is no denying that Evans is an elite talent, but the pieces of the puzzle for him in 2017 are just simply not fitting together. It's hard to trust a guy who has yet to break the 100-yard plateau in any game this season, especially with your championship hopes on the line. Fantasy football stardom, sit-em candidates stock neutral Theo Riddick, RB, DET. Running back situations in the NFL are constantly changing, and that's why Riddick is on this list. With Amir Abdullah missing the game against the Buccaneers, the Lions featured Riddick in the backfield and did not disappoint. The Lions are pushing for a playoff spot and may ride the hot hand even if Abdullah returns in Week 15. Riddick only received 10 carries in Week 14, but he reached the end zone twice and also had a considerable workload in the passing game with 6 receptions for 64 yards. Riddick has been the Lions' most dynamic running back in 2017, and they may give him extra looks going forward if Abdullah isn't 100%. Mark Ingram, RB, no. Alvin Kamara suffered a concussion this week against the Falcons, and the timetable to return is still unknown. He said he hopes to return in Week 15 against the Jets, but nothing is clear. If he doesn't play, it could open the door for a huge day for Ingram, as the Saints will likely jump out to a big lead against the McCownless Jets. This type of game flow would allow Ingram the possibility to run out clock for much of the second half. Even with Kamara healthy, Ingram has been a top 10 running back in fantasy football this season in every format, so it's not like his production will increase but rather his workload. With the Saints not likely to rush back their star, Doyle running back in a game likely to be a blowout, Ingram could easily reach 25 carries in Week 15, something he's done once in 2017.